I guess I'll just do a quick introduction, and then I'll let Gustaf just sort of take things from there. So Gustaf Kranck is a longtime sort of friend of mine through the Quantified Self community. We probably met, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago, 7 years ago at one of the QS events in Europe, and we've always kept in touch. And he's been working hard on this new technology, really around sort of understanding the vagus nerve and how to sort of understand and measure what's going on in the body physiologically. And then he'll probably talk more about down the road, like ways to potentially impact it. And Gustaf, so the folks that are on the call now are all sort of New York area based friends, part of the sort of biohacking community here. Yeah, we've got a pretty good group here. So I think we're going to record this too, so that as Gustaf does his demos and he's going to probably look at a little bit of my data, I could share this for people who couldn't be on the call. So I'll let Gustaf just take it from here, because I think we're limited to about a 40-minute call.
Thanks,
So
Bob.
I'll mute myself.
Okay. Thanks very much, Bob. It's great, and everybody who's there, I won't go through, but I'm really happy you find time to a little bit listen to me or look whatever I have to show if it's of interest. Yeah, I'll start, just try, and then if I get talked too much or whatever, Bob, interrupt me. I get enthusiastic, and so sometimes it just interrupt me. But I'll give you just a short background so you understand. I had I'm an engineer. I have a master's in engineering, also electronics, working on that. I had a lot of companies, had a global group, and I managed to open a factory in 2008. Subsequently, my whole group was in really dire problem. And 2010, I had a burnout, and I was quite the guy who considered myself smart. My ego was really big and so forth. So I thought that's not possible. But I was really in bad shape, and a board member got me to something called Vipassana meditation. Just a quick, when I say Vipassana Goenka meditation, how many of you have been on that?
I know what you're talking about.
I have, yep.
Okay,
I
so
have.
it's familiar to you. Anyhow, what happened to me was totally mind-blowing. It saved my life, and then I came out and said, if I get rid of the shit steel and industry, then I'll devote the rest of my life on trying to figure out a technical solution for what happened to me during the 10 days at Vipassana. And so that's basically what I did. I managed to get rid of my industrial group. The following year, I didn't go bankrupt, but I sold it for €1 and got to keep some of the loans. But I had, I'd still, even if Vipassana helped me, I still had anxiety, I had depressions. And so I basically built a lab, tried to figure out how to help myself without SSRIs. I presume serotonin suppress, whatever, depression medication. It didn't, that was a suicide pills for me. So I had to figure out something else. And that was Vipassana combined with something where I just accidentally discovered vagus stimulation. So I built devices for myself on stimulating the vagus nerve. And that's also the reason then I'll just come to my watch, but this is kind of a unit, the vagus stimulation and the watch, the data and the stimulation is a whole entity, and that's why I do what I do. So since 2011, I've been doing this pretty much full time, and yeah, it's a long journey, and I say I'm going to do it still 20 years. But just to explain, I presume, or have everybody heard a little bit about the vagus nerve? Does it?
Yes, definitely.
Of course.
Yes. Yes.
Yep. I'm really happy. I maybe don't then start to explain all the details. The main thing is for you guys to understand it's enormously important. Of course, we know that's what you activate in Vipassana meditation. That's what you should activate in order to not get anxiety, burnouts, and all these, let's say, modern diseases which exist today. So the vagus nerve what's important to understand it's of course a really a complicated nerve. It starts in the brainstem. It's the 10th cranial nerve, and it's of course not one nerve. There's a lot of it, and one goes down the neck on both sides. So under the vagus nerve is under the aorta here, and it's quite a heavy-duty data channel. I always try to remind people that under my finger right now on the neck here and the vagus nerve goes more data than in all the internet at this moment. So it's big data. But it has an extension which is really interesting, and it goes into the ear. It takes care of muscles in the face and so forth. So it's basically, I follow some, Professor Porges has something called the polyvagal theory, and it means the vagal nerve has, well, many branches, but it basically has two main branches. It's called the ventral and dorsal vagus. And the dorsal is the one which goes down to your stomach with your heavy data, and it also takes care of your heart, your lungs, your intestines, all your internal organs. It goes there, and it's nowadays considered the key nerve also for immune responses and so forth. So it has enormous influence on what we call homeostasis and immune. So the vagus nerve is critically important. So I'll explain it from that perspective, because what we are doing in medical terms or in trials is stimulating the neck and also on the ear and doing that. And very early on, 5-6 years ago, I noticed like Houston, we got a problem with stimulation because people are different. I was doing 50 people, and they reacted, of course, differently on different frequencies. And then if they used our prototypes, we had like 100 prototypes out, it wore off. So I needed to individualize and know in real time which stimulation mode is good. So then I developed an ECG, and I was 1 year at GE Healthcare's incubator in Finland, and I discovered that at least they don't have very advanced electronics. So we built our own hand-to-hand ECG already 5 years ago, which was a ring to get a real-time monitoring of feedback from the stimulation. And so in the past 5 years, we've been using this for trials and so forth. And yeah, it's been extremely helpful. And so the reason for today's meeting is that over the years, it's a little bit taking temporarily over this kind of hand-to-hand ECG, and especially a couple of years ago when then Apple came with the watch with the ECG. So suddenly everybody was starting to talk about the ECG. And we are now in an immune lab in Cambridge, where we do diagnostics for clinical trials. And then a lot of these discussions were already many years ago that we need something to give to the participants in a trial. It's called the longitudinal following of participants. So we need data from participants. We need them to follow them to see, of course, other things also than the ECG. We needed activity levels, we needed sleep, we needed movements, and we needed a nice device which is not kind of a hassle and so forth. So I ended up ditching the ring and doing a smartwatch, which was luckily kind of the technology had then a couple of years ago become so common, and there's good chips and so forth. So what we then did studied. I tried to talk with Apple. I know my personal friends there, but they of course refused giving the data we applied from Cambridge University for clinical trials, and they laughed at us. They've only given some data to Stanford and Johnson & Johnson this far, and they admitted, my friend, that they will not give raw data. So I can't use their data. And anyhow, I thought it was quite unusable. And then the other watchmakers the same. So we had to make our own, and that's where we are now. And of course, we are then launching it as a consumer device now. Well, it's because we need to produce a lot of them, and we need a lot of experience from consumer data. So we need data to be able to help in the clinical trials. So it's a little bit cat and tail. The more data, the better we can figure out. And of course, for our purpose, we aim to, we think our consumer version of the vagus stimulation in the ear will come out. We will get it ready next year. And we know already now from over the years that our biggest issue is that those who want to use a vagus stimulation, they should already have accumulated data from extended periods, so that I need to know when the user is in good shape, and I need to know when he's in bad shape, when he is perfectly happy, when everything is going fine, and when he's really sick and shitty. And these are basic data which we then can use for the vagus stimulation. And it's pretty simple, because the vagus stimulation it only lasts 20 minutes or 30 minutes programs, and we are following it in very quick, in real time, almost in real time. We take kind of 5 or 10 minute intervals to see how it influences. And so we need this basic information in order for the AI to determine which stimulation program is suitable for the person in question. So it's a little bit a big question why we do this, but the end story is that, yeah, now we're launching the watch because we think we should have users we need, and we can give something which nobody else can give. So I published our study from Cambridge study in April. It was about vagal tone with hand-to-hand ECG, because the main thing is that up to now, all the watches are following heart rate variability, which is in itself an interesting value. I don't really like it. I will actually show it to you why you should be careful with heart rate variability, because in the terms what we use it for stimulation, I basically say it's unusable. Heart rate variability as a value is in data sense and information sense not a good value for doing diagnostics for the vagal tone on short term. For long term, for weeks or for days and so forth, a vagal measurement through heart rate variability is okay. But remember, it's okay at best. It's a long-term average which then tells, but it's not on short term. It will not tell you how you at this moment actually feel, or how your health is. So this is something where I am. Bob, how am I doing? Shall I start going through the features of the watch now?
Yeah, I think a lot of people want to see maybe a demonstration of the watch. I know on the website there's not really any images of the screen, so people probably want to see kind of what, I know you're developing the software still a little bit. Maybe show kind of a walkthrough, and I know you've doing my data. Yep.
Can I jump in real quick? This is Sage. I just have a quick question.
Yes.
You went into the dorsal vagus nerve. Can you just talk a little bit about the ventricle and your experience with that? Just close that loop for me, please, before we move on.
Yeah, well, it's very essential why we do what we do. Okay, so the ventral is in the ear. It's the myelinated vagus nerve, and it is different from the dorsal, which goes down here, and it's unmyelinated. But the dorsal takes care of the heart. The dorsal takes care of heart rate, the variability, or the dorsal is coordinating breathing with the heart. So the only parameter we have of vagal tone is today something called respiratory sinus arrhythmia, and that is how well the vagus nerve is synchronizing the pulse to go together with breathing. So that is the dorsal measurement. But in practice, we know from stimulation, these two are basically kind of place-wise on the same place, or virtually exactly. They have a little bit different origin, but they are so close that a modulation of the ventral vagal also modulates the dorsal vagal, because we can't, and non-invasively, we can't influence so precisely that we only influence the ventral. Did I answer your question?
You did. And did I hear you say that the ventral is unmyelinated?
No, the ventral is myelinated. The dorsal is unmyelinated.
Okay,
So
fascinating. I did not know that. I didn't know
down
that.
here in chest does not have myelin on it. When the ventral, which is up here, has myelin on it.
Got it. Thank you.
But it's a very important, because for when we do vagus nerve, and you understand, so my starting point was the vagus nerve. I wanted good data on the vagus nerve, and we didn't find it anywhere. Heart rate variability was a non-user. We could not use heart rate variability for stimulation purposes because it does not function on short-term periods. And heart rate variability has very many flaws. And I will show you one practical example from yesterday, actually, on myself. So, but I'll go to the watch. So in order to measure vagal tone, to measure health, how does your vagus nerve function? It can be measured from the thing which is called respiratory sinus arrhythmia. So when we breathe in, then the vagus nerve is increasing pulse in order to pump out more oxygen. And it also adjusts in the lungs something called the bronchiolis, so it kind of fluctuates the bronchiolis. So it is a wonderful, most advanced kind of system of full control of homeostasis, and especially the cardiac respiratory kind of integration is critical. So just to look at the heart is not wise if you want to understand whether or not the vagus nerve is working properly. This is scientifically a fact. So just to look at heart rate variability without looking at breathing, it tells you nothing, because there are many factors who can cause variability on heart rate. But if you couple heart rate movements with breathing and you look at these details, that's when you start to get into the truth about the vagus nerve. So that is the vagal tone, and then Professor Borges, for instance, then say respiratory sinus arrhythmia was up till some time ago the best ones, but that was difficult to do. And what we can do now is I discovered, rediscovered an old fact. It is that when you breathe in deeply, more deeply, your heart position is moving a little bit, and this position movement, actually the placement of the heart, because it's under your lungs, this causes the QRS amplitude change, and this amplitude change is an extremely precise measurement of breathing. So because it doesn't change unless you move your chest and you move the position, and you can't do it any other way than breathing. So it has been known already for a long time that on the electrocardiogram electrodes here on the neck, it can be seen. It's not seen here on the chest band, because it needs to move. It's these electrodes, or then electrodes down in the feet, but that's impractical. But what I discovered that, of course, hand-to-hand electrocardiogram is an extension of these EVR electrodes. So what we do and now I come to the point. So I'll show you what we do, the main feature. This is a smartwatch. It takes phone calls, it takes messages, follows your steps, it follows your optical pulse and all this normal stuff. We do it and we tell the clients we have all these features, but the main thing, well, I hope, is people to buy these and use it, because it gives a totally new type of data, and it gives much deeper information on a person's autonomic nervous system than anything before. And so but in order to really, and we've done 10,000 electrocardiogram tests for 5 years. So I always said, I think I've done more than anyone else. Nobody's challenged me on that. So I'm pretty much a specialist on hand-to-hand ECG. We also have a yoga center here in France. So I've been doing a lot on yogis and so forth, and meditators, and I'm a Finn, so I've done on people who are less healthy, let's say, drink a lot of alcohol and so forth. So I know all the different, but to get the real data, so now, maybe I should, I'll show so in electrocardiogram, you have one measurement point under the watch, and the other one is on the side of the watch. So a hand-to-hand ECG, of course, is necessary for you to have the hands. I'm gonna do a little bit just so you need both hands, and don't believe Apple's way to measure ECG like this. Is just, in my opinion, pure bullshit, because it becomes a lot of muscle activity, and then they make some kind of movie. So I say their ECG is more Hollywood movie than any real science or data. But they are going to sue me most probably if I say that, so better not to quote me too much on it. But anyhow, so what we do with the watch is, of course, it's normal watch time. Yeah, nice with that. Then there's this, what's its number? I'm going the wrong way. So it's a swipe. It gives how many steps you take. Can you see this, by the way, now?
Yeah, just minimize your movement so that we get a lot of blur when you move it. So yeah, try to stay still.
Sorry, trying to do that, okay? I have it on so you will see at the same time. So these are the steps. And then I have this vagus, I'll come back to that. That's a vagus test. Then we do a base ECG. This is 30 seconds test. And then it has an optical heart rate. So this is the normal, it follows optical. So there's basically different ways to follow the heart. And then I also have a breathing exercise. This was something which we talked with Bob a lot. It's closing the screen very quickly because it has a long battery time. I hate charging, so I think now it's 8 days since I charged this last. In normal, we say 5 to 7 days, but it lasts up to 10 days, even in normal use. And then it takes 2 hours to charge it. So but let's go. So you just swipe, but the main feature then is the Vagus ECG test. And when you press that one, now I didn't think I was able to do this. I actually have broken my screen. So let's see if I can get you to. I didn't think of how to set this up with a broken screen. So that you can see it. So you see how the test should be done. Just see. This is problematic. Sorry about this. Rule number 1, always test before you have a conference call.
Just a time check. You've got about 10 minutes left on your.
Yeah, the test you do is like this. You press Vagus test, and then you rest your hand. You put here, and now I think you can see the screen. First, it takes 30 seconds. It takes a base ECG. Just rest your hands. And after that, it's going to ask you and show you how to do the control breathing. And I use 5 seconds inhale and 5 seconds exhale for 60 seconds. So now it asks you to wait.
So right now the screen, we're just seeing reflection on the screen, just the focus is off. But basically what it's doing is there's a 30-second countdown. You breathe normally. And then after 30 seconds, it'll give you a 5-second countdown and then tell you to breathe following a breath pacer, 5 in, 5 out over 60 seconds. And then that's how you trend your readings.
So it doesn't really see there, but it asks you, it gives you exact in color and instructions when to
there you go. We can see it now.
Now you see it changes between inhale So now you take a deep abdominal breathing in, and then you breathe out for 5 seconds. So you just follow this instruction. That's all you need to do. And when you've done this for 90 seconds, it sends it into the app sends it into the cloud, we do the analysis, and you get the data. And this is the key issue which we need to have, because with this data, we really can take this, show what the heart. Okay, after doing this test, now it goes into the app. I won't start showing the app anymore. I'll go directly into the data then, if this is okay. So I'll show you, for you to understand what really is the, I'll need to, let's see, I'll share the, let's see, I think it's there. Can you see the screen now?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll explain quickly for you to understand what does it really do. So this is one result, and this is the one I've been kind of showing also Bob and so forth. This is Bob, this is you in the morning. The red line here is the heart rate during this control breathing phase. So how the pulse goes up and goes down. And since we can measure exactly breathing also now with this way, we get exactly the blue line, how breathing goes in and out. So this, Bob had a really good breathing, and then we can see exactly when the pulse goes up and when it goes down. And you can see from the graphics here, you understand that his pulse starts going up a little bit before he's inhaling, which is good. That's what it should do. It continues maybe a little bit too long, but it's good anyhow. This was already really good measurement, or really good data which you had in the morning, and all the data. So if you see bottom line, you see we give breathing, we give, of course, we also look at heart rate variability as a number. People want that minimum resting heartbeat, the high heartbeat, but especially we take the respiratory sinus arrhythmia, RSA, how well the peaks of the heart and the peaks of breathing are synchronized, and then how are they synchronized? How well is it going up and down? So this was Bob today. I mean, you're healthy, you get a good health insurance from that. I'll show you another one, which was yesterday, for you to understand why heart rate variability isn't. This is me before I did a stimulation program. Actually, I test a lot of stimulations, and I do vagus stimulation almost daily for myself for the past 6 years. Yeah, some say that's why I'm a little bit strange, but I like it. It helps me. So my red is my heart rate, and the blue is my breathing in a normal stage. And I have a little bit too early. This is so my value isn't that good. It's only 59 is the index there. But the point I want to show, and then I did something on the vagus stimulation on vagal blocking. And now you're going to see first ever a graphic, what happened when I do vagal stimulation, nerve blocking. So you can see, this is me, and there's 10 minutes between these two. I'm just sitting still. This is before, and this was after the vagal, at the end of 10 minutes, 15 minutes, I think, vagal blocking was here. So you can see how my heart goes up and down, which means in this graph, you see I have a very high heart rate variability, extremely high heart rate variability. Traditionally, you would say, oh, Gustaf is in great shape. But that's bullshit. I actually blocked vagal tone to the heart. And the result is that my vagal tone was very low. So you maybe see on the RSA, so I had a very low vagal tone, but heart rate variability was very high. And I was not, this is not a good stage. But there are reasons due to immune, what we do immune, we need to block the dorsal vagal. And even if I get a low heart vagal tone, at the same time, I block autoimmune responses. So this is really very good result, even though people don't really realize it. But these are ways I can see extremely precisely about the state of a person. I've been doing hundreds and hundreds or thousands of people, and I can see immediately, and the data can show me if they have a severe disease or if something is really wrong with their autonomic nervous system. So we just need these 90 seconds, and this data is just I haven't seen anyone else in the world do this. And after the conference in April, people where they want me to have these watches at the Veterans Hospital in Boston and so forth. Now we are supplying to Stockholm hospitals and for some clinical trials. But I would like to have normal consumers to learn and understand, get the data on themselves, and to learn much more. So, well, how am I doing with time? So this is the fundamental, these are data points which we give to the users. I'm a QS, I was active in the data rights, so the user owns the data. The user can get the raw ECG data and so forth from this. That's what we call the Data Explorer package on this. It's a little bit work on the construction. I will only supply, in middle February, we supply those which are ordered now, and I will only supply 100 watches first. I want to see the first 100, how people are using the data and so forth. And then we open maybe for the next batch, which will be in then maybe April, May. So I want the first 100 users of the watch to get this data to learn and see. So that is the process we are in at the moment. So sorry, I'm speeding up here. Questions?
So Gustaf, just to clarify, you're doing manual analysis at the moment of this information. So the data is gathered on the device, uploaded, and you'll look at it. You're sort of looking at it with a set of expert eyes. You can kind of, based on the 10,000 plus scans you've looked at, eventually this is going to migrate to something that's probably a little more automated and they can extract the sort of insights out of it. But for now, it's a manual. Like, you have the raw data, but you're able to interpret it for us. So if I send you my information, you're saying I look good, or I'm stressed out, or something's off. Just so people understand, like, there's the device, there's an app, but really the analysis is still being done manually.
No, but that's why I actually have the watches already, but we are not going to start supplying until middle February, because then the app is ready. So we are working on the app so that this data comes back in the app. This graphic, actually, you can then open on the app, you will see.
Okay.
And you get all these vagal tones, all this data, and you can see your historical for the past week. We're going to have the past 10 days are going to show how you evolve your vagal tone and when it's down and when it's up. So you will get numerical values. Of course, this will be when we ship the first 100, then the app is ready.
Yeah. So just like in terms of the group on this call, so a lot of the folks here are doing a lot of things with breath work, et cetera, trying to manipulate our physiological state. So I could see potential applications here from a raw data standpoint, even where, beyond doing the control breathing you've got, where you're trying to compare 5 seconds, people can figure out optimal breathing patterns or things to put themselves in the optimal, let's say, parasympathetic state at any time by looking at where do we optimize these curves, these graphs based on different breathing patterns. That'd be something.
Yeah, I can say right now, I'm not going to give out. You have one, Bob. I have a few beta testers, but because I do it manually, I send it out. So we're not gonna have more beta testers until the app is doing it automatically so that will come for the first 100. But I'm saying that for the first time, what I do with the Nerve Explorers, the package we've agreed with my team, is that we take these first 100, and if they use the watch sufficiently, we say 2 months of data, we go in and do manual diagnostics also for them. So then I can't have 1,000 users who put me questions. Could you look at yesterday's data? The data shows like that. Could you look at it and say? So in order for me to be physically able to do diagnostics also for these data explorers, then we limit it to 100 now.
No, I understand. I guess to clarify.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, no, sorry. I was just meant to clarify. I understand the analysis and if you've got thousands of users, but I'm saying because there's raw data, there's other applications for how this device can be used. Meaning, if somebody else wants to look at the data and correlate things with meditation, breath work, all of that beyond just the baseline, my body's state on any given day, they'll have access to that information.
Yes. I want people to discover also what they can do with raw ECG hand-to-hand data. This is the best biosignal data available. I've been playing around with EEGs for ages, and I'm just saying that EEG interpretation is so and so. I mean, it's just so interesting to look at data for the first year, but after that, you're not. It doesn't tell you. I find this much more informative than EEG. Actually, so. I think for people doing breath work, they must look at this data because it's the critical component of why we breathe in controlled manner, why we do pranayama in yoga and all this. We need to see, are people responding properly? And if they don't, this is very important. So this we look at.
So I have a question for you. I do 30 to 45-minute breathwork sessions one-on-one on a regular basis. I would love to be able to tell exactly at what points, as we're graphing, as the journey is being created, what we're doing biologically, physiologically. And can this be in any way extended to neurologically with brain states? Can we infer brain states, alpha, beta, delta, theta, gamma, mu, any of that from your data? Or is that something that could be worked in or with an API in the future so that we can get bio and neuro data?
Yeah,
based on breath.
As I said, I do EEG. So we've been doing in Transtech lab in Sofia University. We did a lot of EEG combined with this ECG. Okay, so I know that if you have controlled breathing and your vagal tone is high, you will raise your theta, or sorry, decrease, depending a little bit on the person. Actually, I decrease my thetas. Others. So this is individual, but. So we see correlations, and these are pretty simple. When you tested it a few times, then you usually know how a person reacts in EEG from this vagal tone, yes.
Can someone use this during a breath session without they need to have both hands touching the phone, right? So if they pass out, or if they, not black out, but they go into a samadhi state, someone needs to have their hands fastened. We would need to find a way to keep that second hand on the watch, correct?
Yes, the main thing is they sit in the chair and you lean your left hand on your foot, and then you kind of have hands crossed in your, and then we can follow. But I've been very careful. We don't have real-time monitoring, so I can't do a half an hour because it's not informative. I have the ring can do. We can take 1 hour, 2 hour sessions with the ring, but it's really troublesome to pick out the details, and so at this moment we just have the 90-second test, and then so you need them to do to remind them that now you restart the 90-second and do that, for instance, with 10-minute intervals. Then I know how well is the breathing session going. Yes.
Okay. Let me ask you about heart coherence. That's why you're doing 5 in, 5 out, right? That's based on heart math and Patricia Garberg, Ed Brown's work around heart coherence.
I know them very well. I was there and I worked. This is based on very much older. This is science where usually you have 80% parasympathetic activation on 5 seconds inhale, 5 seconds exhale. This has nothing to do with heart math studies. It's just a fact that our bodies, usually we breathe 2 to 3 seconds inhale and exhale. So when you are at 5 seconds, then you already have 80 to 85% activation of parasympathetic, regardless of anything else. So this is, I don't want to kind of mix apples and bananas here. So what we do from scientific point of view is that this is how the vagus nerve works. It has nothing to do with breathing coherence. It is just the functionality of the vagus nerve. I'm an engineer. It's like if you press the gas on a car, it goes faster. So it is how the vagus nerve works and should work. And if it doesn't work that way, then we also know the medical and scientific reasons for that. Sometimes, not always. We go in and look at it. So it is, yeah, heart math is a derivative of this fact, but it's nothing special. It's just how the body is constructed. Yes.
Got it. So if I'm pioneering, which I am, new breath patterns, your device could tell me what I'm doing physiologically at any point, 10-minute intervals, ideally at 90-second readings. You could map and tell what's going on in a person, track over time what we're doing in sessions, and then track ultimate benefit at 3 months, 6 months.
Yes.
With clinical precision.
This way, I would, the prime thing what you can do with this is say that, will this person benefit from breath work in generally, or does this person have an autonomic nerve dysfunction? If, for instance, autoimmune disease or a genetic disposition or other reason where he or she does not respond to breath work. And then what we say is that if breath work practice doesn't work, then we send them to doctors, we do immune lab tests and so forth. So the main thing is to be able to tell the person, the patient, that will breathing, is this going to help them? Because for most it will help, but not for all. So I can separate those who are not going to find a benefit from breath work, because we can see quite early that there is a fundamental problem with the vagus nerve. Do you follow me? Sorry.
I do. No, I do. That's fascinating. The reason I'm really personally fascinated at that level is because I suffer from a number of autoimmune and neurological autonomic nervous. I have like 10 of them going on at all times. And I do breath work for myself first so that I can function at any level without opioids or other forms of traditional medication. But I have no idea what's going on in my body, and I can do some pretty crazy stuff. So just personally, I'm fascinated because I know what I can do, but I have no idea what it's doing inside of me. And so I'm quite keen to get involved in this and just figure out, because no one's been able to tell me what an accident with peptides did to my nervous system and my vagal tone. I have a very high HRV. I'm like 150 milliseconds at night, which is really not indicative of what's going on. So everything you're saying rings a bell, and I'd love to begin to integrate it and talk about how we can put this to work with the breathwork stuff that we're already pioneering.
But I just wanted to say thank you. This is so informative and exciting, because up to this point, HRV has really been the only thing that I have at my disposal to help the clients, right? Like to help support a more precise program to help people achieve a higher level of fitness. And so this is really, really exciting. I'm really excited and grateful.
Thank you. That's wonderful to hear. Yeah, I'm not trying to say that HRV, it's good for, it's a start point, and it's good for longer term measurements to understand. But I'm always so scared, and I get so frustrated when people are kind of praying to the HRV and saying this is solving their life. And I'm just, no, it's not. It's unfortunately not the truth. It
Yeah.
is.
I mean, one of the funny things is one of our taglines is data don't lie. But ironically, we all know that we're just trying to find better and better data points. We know that it's just informing us. There's no such thing as perfection in this search. And so I'm always looking for a better way. And I'm excited when I get to connect with someone who's obviously doing really groundbreaking work.
Thank you. I really hope to be able to work with you on that. Yeah.
Thanks again, Gustaf. And I guess if anyone has questions, the website is vagus.co, right?
Yes.
And then, or I can put them in touch with you. Yeah.
I mean, Gustaf, Gustaf at vagus.co. Just put me mails and questions, and I can. I have a version of the study also I can send to you guys, which it's not the full study, but it's a version we can publicly send out. So just put me your email.
Excellent. All right. Well, looks like we're coming up on an hour. So I guess if there are no other questions, we'll we really appreciate you taking the time today to walk us through everything. I mean, this is all, as you know, like I geek out about this stuff, and it's you know, and I feel like you think you know a lot, and then you learn more. So it's, you have to kind of keep reevaluating, and it's exciting.
Really, really happy if I can help you guys to get deeper into the human body homeostasis, the understanding of the immune system and the autonomic nervous system. This, I think, is critically important stuff.
Great. All right. Well,
thank you very much, everybody,
Thank
for
you.
joining.
Thanks
Thank you.
again.
Have
Have a good day. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.